In a statement signed by Garba Shehu, the presidential spokesman, on Tuesday, the President Muhammadu Buhari announced that he has asked the CBN to stop providing foreign exchange for food importation into the country, with the steady improvement in agricultural production and attainment of full food security. According to the President, the foreign reserve will be used strictly for diversification of the economy and not for encouraging more dependence on foreign food. Meanwhile, some Nigerians do not agree with the president's school of thought, one being Kingsley Moghalu, a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who has criticized President Muhammadu Buhari over his directive to the Apex Bank. He quoted Article 1, Section 3 of the CBN Act 2007, which states that in order to facilitate the achievement of its mandate under this act, the bank shall be an independent body in the discharge of its functions, he said. The issue here isn't whether or not CBN should allow access to foreign Forex for food importation. It is about whether such an economic policy of a central bank should be imposed by a political authority. Obi also lashed out on the president on Twitter, saying he is living in a bubble, a completely out-of-touch leader. To discuss this with me is Osilama Okuofu, an economic analyst. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Irene.
The President of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, did give a directive to the Central Bank of Nigeria regarding the stopping of FX for imported food items. What were your initial thoughts?
I actually thought, and I still do think, that it's a good initiative. Given the fact that, the overall objective or the overall aim is to ensure, facilitate food security. No nation is independent if you are economically tied, to the apron string of so many other countries. Economically in the sense that you are usually import dependent. So I think that it's a good initiative. It essentially means that we'll look inwards. Right? Backward integration.
We saw some reactions from Nigerians, one being the former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu. He did quote, and he did say, and I quote, Article 1, Section 3 of the CBN Act 2007. It says, in order to facilitate the achievement of its mandate under this act, the bank shall be an independent body in the discharge of its function. Are there exceptions to this? Because some people feel because it's coming from a political person, while he's the president, the central bank is supposed to be an independent entity.
Now, it is clear and understood clearly that the central bank is supposed to be independent.
Yes.
That is fine. But again, we need to understand that we're talking about macroeconomics here, which is broken down into fiscal and monetary. But at the end of the day, they are one. It just happens that they apply different, policy toolkits in achieving their aims. But there has to be some convergence. The fiscalist, which in this case is the government, should be driving policies. And that is what the president is essentially has done. But again, too, for me, I think it's just more of semantics. I've given the CBN a directive. Probably the president should have used the word "I've requested."
Or suggested.
Exactly. So if he had, so it's just a function of semantics. But in him saying "I've given the CBN a directive" does not encroach, as far as I'm concerned, on the independence of the central bank. What we're seeing here essentially,
but this is supposed to turn out to be a policy at the end of the day, because when you say that you're banning FX for the importation of food items into the country, it becomes law.
Yeah, but again,
what instigated that law?
That's what I'm saying. What is the vision of the president?
We understand the vision.
Yeah.
Because
if you understand the vision, then you shouldn't have any quarrel with the process in achieving the vision. The vision is food security, to enhance and increase production of agricultural produces in Nigeria. How do you do that if you keep allowing importation of goods, of agricultural produces into Nigeria? How do you do that? How do you ensure that local rice producers attain the level of those in Thailand? How do you ensure that we move towards areas of industrialization like you have, in the advanced economies? Don't forget that the advanced economies started from agrarian levels to, the high level of productive capacity that they've attained. Until you start a process, you cannot go through seeing to the end and ensuring that you make the best of it. I know I'm sounding philosophical now. Yeah.
Let's take a look at what Obieze Kwesili also mentioned.
I also saw that tweet.
She said a completely out of touch leader. What would you suggest? What would you make out of her tweet?
I think that was rather brash. I think that was rather uncomplimentary. Like I said, if we take the politics out of it, a completely out of
you can't totally exempt or divide politics from the economy. They're pretty intertwined. At some point, you'd find the convergence where political affairs affect the economy of a nation. I mean, we can see that already playing out between the US and China.
See, the thrust of their argument is simple. The fear that the directive by the president is encroaching on the independence of the central bank. And I'm saying that's not the case. Central bank independence started in Britain, the Bank of England, right? Some decades ago. Mm-hmm. But see, as independent as the governor of the Bank of England is, if the repo rate or the base rate, which is in our own case the monetary policy rate, must be increased above the agreed threshold, usually 2%, mm-hmm. right? What happens? The governor of the Bank of England must write to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, like our finance minister. So where is the independence? It essentially means that there's collaboration. It equally means that you still equally have a reporting line. So
this leads me to my next question regarding the fact that we're over 200 million in population. Yeah. That's a lot to feed. Mm-hmm. Would you suggest that at this point in time we have the mechanism to drive this particular thought process by the president?
Again, it's a vision. Now, when you envision, you start putting the necessary mechanism in place to ensure that vision is actualized. Again, don't forget that there are a couple of collaboration between the central bank, the federal government, and some states in the agricultural sector. Space. And quite a couple of, and the president even did mention some of those states. Some of those states are doing very well. They've leveraged on the opportunities, the Anchor Borrower Scheme and a couple of others. A lot of states have not. So the challenge should be for those states, right, to key into it. We have the land mass, we have the people, we have the resources. Agriculture was the mainstay of the Nigerian economy before we discovered oil in Oloibiri, okay? So it shows that if we could achieve it then, the granite pyramid in Kano, cocoa in the southwest, the palm kernel in the southeast and all that, we still have those produces, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a vision that can be achieved. But if you do not start the process, you will never, one, know if you can achieve that vision, or two, learn from some of the pitfalls that will certainly come along the way. Don't forget also that the imports we make, we are not produced immediately we made the request for importation.
Do you know that we have a situation where some of these products are cheaper when you import than when you're producing locally?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was heading towards. You see, some of these countries, keyed into the agricultural revolution decades ago. We backtracked because we discovered oil. But if we had continued the process, a lot of all these, there wouldn't be any need for us to start importing some of all these things, right? Palm kernel was gotten from Nigeria to Malaysia, and you and I know the story of what Malaysia has done with the palm kernel seedlings that they got from Nigeria.
From Nigeria.
All right, so at some point we need to ask ourselves, are we going to continue along this track, or find out where we derailed and fix it? I think that's what the president is trying to do, and it's good. Let's take the politics out of the economic vision, and to say a completely out of touch president. I'm sure the president is aware that the central bank is independent.
He has, of course, he is
aware. So I don't understand what a tirade against the president in that regard. Really, I don't know what it was trying to achieve. Let us focus on what is it trying to achieve. What's the end game? The end game is food self-sufficiency. Is she saying she wouldn't want that? After all, she wanted to be president of Nigeria. Would she have wanted us to continue to import things that we can produce locally? Yes, like you rightly pointed out, it's cheaper to import, right? But over time, when our productive capacity improves,
which is dependent on structural reforms, infrastructure being put where it's supposed to, power.
There is a process. We need to follow through with the process. The starting point is a vision. It's like a plan. Planning is a guide to an action. This is what I plan to do. This is my vision. So you now start putting in place structures, strategies to achieving that. Okay,
but then now we see that we are hoping or assuming that the government is going to take on with this particular proposed vision of the president. Shouldn't there be a thin line where the private sector individuals are also brought into this web to also expand their horizon? Some of them are already working towards the agricultural line, and then ways in which they can be encouraged as well. I had one young farmer come into the studio a while ago, and he mentioned to me that 4 days before his day of harvest, there were herdsmen who came and ate up and destroyed the farm. 10 hectares of land, all he had grown his rice, ready and excited for harvest, but then at the end of the day, so we're still having issues of insecurity. These are things that I feel like we should tackle first.
Yeah, but then again, if you recall, that same message I was sent out by the spokesman of the president, right? The president alluded to the fact that there is still some work to be done on physical security. So so that's what I'm saying. It's not out of touch. It's not oblivious of what the challenges are. But you cannot now say, because you have certain fears, certain reservations, you won't plunge, you won't forge ahead. There are ways, I believe, things like this can be worked on. There's so much insecurity, especially in the middle belt. Nobody is asking the private investors in agriculture not to. After all, like I said, there are different schemes. The government, in collaboration with the central bank, the Bank of Industry, the Bank of Agriculture, they've put in place. If you meet the requirements, you key into it, right? But then again, the states need to up their game. And I want to believe that if the states key in, if the 36 states key in line with the products, the farm produces that they can actually produce or that can do well within their different spheres and localities, will converge towards a basket of products that will feed this country, and then we export. And again, with the resources at the disposal of the states, they will be able to provide more security for their investment, their farms, unlike the private individual. Where we are right now is where we are, but you need to think outside the box, look for ways and measures to ensure that you still you defeat whatever
issues are resolved.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we look for a way forward.
Exactly. You cannot now say because I know that a lot of private farmers don't go to the farms anymore.
Yes, because at the end of the day, you want to be sure that you're going to the farm and you're coming back alive.
Yeah, but don't forget again too that there's this collaboration between Lagos and Kebbi State that produced the lake rice. I'm sure nobody heard anything about herdsmen carrying their cattle to go and eat the rice there 4 days before.
So does it mean that it's only safer when it has to deal with the government?
That is where we are right now. Walk from where you are to where you want to be.
Okay. So I think we'll end on this note. Thank you very much for joining me in the studio.
Thanks for having me once again.